If you're watching today's video and you have not subscribed to my YouTube page, what you waiting for? Please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube page and don't forget to turn your notifications on, because when I'm dropping game like I am today, you want to be the first notified so that you can watch it, get the information from it, and go apply it to your life. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what has become a very common real estate investment strategy, which is the subject to strategy. It is a creative strategy that real estate investors like myself and many others use, and is becoming more common to use, especially when you have a lot of homeowners / sellers who are in distressed situations where a typical real estate transaction doesn't work. Creative real estate transactions like subject to does work. Now, I have in my hand just a few pages of a creative real estate workshop. This is a workbook that I use. It's about 30-something pages. This is just one of the tools that I use to teach my students and mentees the ins and outs of creative real estate investing. So if you would like to get your hand on this information, don't hesitate to click the link in the description. Reach out to me. We have weekly coaching calls. We have monthly creative real estate meetups. We have quarterly workshops, and we have a ton of videos and documents and forms and lessons inside of our Millionaire Blueprint that we're using to help people build million-dollar enterprises, primarily through strategies like subject to. So today, I'm going to talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of subject to investing. So that means when you are investing in real estate, your acquisition strategy, the way that you are acquiring or buying that property that you're investing in, is through this strategy called subject to. Now, on page 18 of my creative real estate workbook, I talk about what subject to is, how it works, and I give you steps to follow from entry to exit on every subject to deal. But here's what I wanted to share with you before I get into the benefits and the drawbacks. That the subject to strategy, it involves a private transaction where the owner of the property agrees to sign over the deed to the property subject to the existing mortgage without the involvement of the bank. Okay? So every homeowner has a deed that gives them ownership of that property. Well, every property also has a mortgage, in most cases when there's a lender and bank involved, or a deed of trust attached to that property, which is used as a security instrument to protect the interests of the bank, the lender, who has given the homeowner the money to actually have the deed to the property and own the property. So subject to is this private transaction where the homeowner, again, of the property agrees to sign over the deed of the ownership, but it's being signed over subject to the existing mortgage without the involvement of the bank. In other words, you, the investor, will become the legal owner of the property. Why? Because they're signing over the deed, okay? But although you're the legal owner of the property as the investor, the seller remains on the existing mortgage. So you're not removing the existing mortgage, you're keeping the existing mortgage in place, you're just transferring title or the deed into your name or into the name of your trust or your LLC. You are thus becoming the legal owner, but the existing mortgage is in place. That's what we call subject to investing. However, there are benefits and drawbacks. And so we're going to go through the benefits and the drawbacks. And of course, everybody has their own opinions about this type of strategy like any other strategy. But this is just my opinion. This is my take. This is what I know to be true when it comes to the benefits and the drawbacks of subject to investing. So let's look at some of the benefits. Well, first and foremost, you don't need no credit. Because who's checking your credit? If someone owns a home and they have a deed to that home and they have a mortgage on that home, which is a security instrument In most states, it's called a deed of trust. If they choose to transfer the ownership of that deed to you and leave the existing mortgage in place, that's their decision, all right? And that does not require your credit. So that is a benefit. It doesn't require banks. Now, although the banks are still involved because there's a existing mortgage on that property, but it doesn't necessarily require the bank's authorization because you're not assuming the loan, you're just taking over or stepping in the shoes of the owner when it comes to the responsibility of paying that monthly payment and paying off that existing loan. Here's another benefit. You save money. How do you save money? Well, if you go to get a loan as an investor, a lot of times you're going to have at least 20 to 25% down. So let's just hypothetically say you go to buy as an investor a $300,000 property, okay? You're going to use to rent or whatever you're going to do with it as an investor. And you go to a lender as an investor to get that loan, not as a homeowner, but as an investor, you may have to put down at least 20%. Well, 20% of 300,000 is 60,000. That's before repairs or anything else that you may want to do. You're automatically having to put a down payment of 60,000. Well, most properties that you buy subject to, if they are median homes, are not going to require $60,000 down. Sometimes it won't even require $60,000 to buy it, to give the seller money, to walk away, and even to fix it up, to resell it or rent it. It's not going to cost you $60,000 unless they're in pre-foreclosure and they have arrears. But a lot of times it's not even $60,000. So you save money and it's scalable. Why? Because a lot of times as an investor, if you're going to get a conventional loan, there's only so many loans that they're going to allow you to get in your name. And once you hit that limit, you're no longer able to invest. Where with subject to, you're taking over existing loans, you could buy hundreds of properties because your name is not necessarily on the loan. You are taking over the loan and the name of your company or your trust or your name, if that's how you do it, will be on the deed. So it's scalable. Another benefit, it's a quick sale. I mean, I've done deals within a week. I mean, literally from signing a contract to closing, I've been able to do it in a week using this strategy. Where if you're going the conventional route, it could take 30 days. You got to get a pre-approval. You got to go through underwriting. You got to get an appraisal. You have to have an inspection. There are a lot of things that have to happen. Now, of course, it can be quick if you're doing cash sales or if you're buying properties cash. But guess what? Who has hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash just sitting around, especially if they're not using hard money lenders? So it's a quick sale, and which is very good for a lot of real estate investors who are new to the game. This is a low barrier of entry. For years, I missed out on investing in real estate because I did not know or utilize this strategy. The crazy thing is, when I first got into the real estate game, I heard about strategies like this, creative real estate strategies, but I didn't understand it. And the people who were talking about it, they didn't share enough of it. And you know, when you go to those like one-day seminars and they give you a packet and it's only enough information to get you to go to the back of the room, which I have no problem with the sales, but the problem was I didn't have 40 grand to pay to get the rest of the information. So I just took the 3 or 4 pages of, papers that they gave me at the event, and I moved on. And back in the early 2000s, when I first got started, my wife and I, we didn't have social media the way we have it today, and we were limited in our ability to find the information. No excuse, but it is what it is. But it's a low barrier to entry because you're able to get into real estate investing without the barriers of banks telling you no, not having the down payment, credit score not being good enough, the loan to value on the property doesn't get you qualified for hard money. So there's so many barriers doing it the conventional way. A lot of real estate investors have done it and still do it, where this way it's a low barrier of entry. Okay, next, motivated seller. most times when you have a homeowner who's willing to sell you their home through this specific strategy, they have motivations that are not just normal motivations. They have distresses that have become motivations, and whatever they need to do to get out of that distress, it creates the motivation for them to sell you the property using this strategy. And especially when you're acquiring properties using this strategy that are in pre-foreclosure or that are physically distressed, that need a lot of repairs, you're actually benefiting by improving the community. Nobody who owns a home in a community wants to drive to and from their home and see other homes in their community distressed. Grass high, all type of papers on the door, the mailbox is full. Nobody wants that. So you're actually benefiting by improving the community. So those are the benefits of subject to. Now let's look at the drawbacks. Well, one drawback is the deal structure, meaning that there are a lot of moving parts that you have to make sure are put together correctly when you're structuring a subject to or any creative real estate deal. Because if the deal is not structured correctly, then it can come back to bite you and it can come back to hurt the seller as well. Another drawback is the insurance. You have to make sure that you have a competent insurance agent who knows how to structure that insurance and submit that declaration page to the bank that holds the existing mortgage. It's very important because you should have your own insurance on that property as an investor. So for example, the homeowner has homeowner's insurance because they got it when they bought the house. Most of the times they get these loans, they have PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and an escrow account. So when they pay their mortgage every month, they're paying into the principal, the interest, the taxes, and insurance, right? So that insurance is for the homeowner. Well, when you buy the property, okay, even though the loan may still be in place, but you're the new owner, you're not the homeowner, okay? So it's no longer a homeowner's insurance, it's an investor's insurance. It's a landlord policy or a flipper policy, whatever type of policy. This is a mistake a lot of investors make, and that's one of the drawbacks. Another drawback is the cost of acquisition, especially if you are buying pre-foreclosures or extremely distressed properties, whether it's physical distress or financial distress on the owner. The cost of acquisition, okay? There one property in particular I bought using this strategy. It cost me almost $80,000 when you calculate the closing costs, the cost to give the seller money at closing, the cost to help the seller in this situation. We had arrears, we had 2 or 3 liens, and then once we started rehabbing the property, we had 2 or 3 major things that came up. What started out as I actually underwrote it at about 75, so I ended up spending about 77 or 78, so I wasn't too far off. But my point is, that's a drawback because you have to have $75,000, $78,000 available for a situation that turns left. Another drawback is the seller. They can have seller's remorse, meaning that, okay, they go through with the transaction and then a month later they call you back and they like, yeah, I think I should have kept it. I don't know what I was thinking about. I want my name off the loan. I'm gonna call the bank and let them know that I no longer own it. I don't live there anymore. That's a big problem. And you need to have a exit strategy for that if or when it happens. Another drawback is the due on sale clause, where the insurance not being done right, the seller bumping their head and tripping, both of those will trigger the due on sale or could potentially trigger the due on sale, even though the transaction itself technically triggers the due on sale, but it doesn't necessarily show up because these banks and these servicing companies are so big. And if you don't know, the due on sale clause is just an acceleration clause in the agreement that the original homeowner made when they got the loan from the mortgage company. They basically signed paperwork saying if they transfer the deed, the ownership out of their name, that the bank has the right to call the loan due. Hence, we have the due on sale clause. They can call the loan due. Now, do they exercise that right to do it? No, they may do it. It's not illegal, but it's just something that they have the right to do if they choose to do it. That's a drawback. Another drawback is the disposition. How are you going to exit the property? So if you buy the property using this strategy or any other strategy, are you going to rent it? Are you going to do a lease option? Are you going to buy and hold it? Are you going to live into it? That could be a drawback because you need to have a disposition strategy. Another drawback is the PML. That's short for private money lender. A lot of creative deals, we bring private money lenders in, meaning that whatever the cost of acquisition it is for us to acquire the property, we borrow that money from a private money lender who subsequently becomes a second or third lien holder to the original lender or the mortgage company. And that can be a drawback because maybe they don't want to stay in that deal as long as you may have to keep them in that deal, or maybe they're not willing to give you the money that you need to acquire the property. So the private money lender can be a drawback. And last but not least, the buyer, you and I as investors, can be the drawbacks, because if we're scumbags, if we're unethical, we can purchase these properties using this strategy, stop paying the mortgage, and we subsequently ruin the homeowners or the seller's credit. That home can go into foreclosure, and because the note or the mortgage is not in our name, if we're unethical scumbags, we won't care. So that can potentially be a drawback. So I just want to share with you some of the benefits and some of the drawbacks of using strategies like Subject to. Again, I encourage you, if this is one of the strategies that you want to have in your investor toolbox, get educated, get mentored, get in a community. Doesn't have to be mine and doesn't have to be the information that I provide, but it needs to be information that could teach you to develop the right skill sets and for you to have a community to support you so that you can do it not just ethically, but you can do it successfully and benefit everyone involved. I'll see you in the next video.